It's trash day, I'm putting you out, it's trash day. Putting you out, it's trash day. Putting you out of my mind. It's trash day, I'm putting you out, it's trash day. I'm putting you out, trash day, I'm putting you out of my mind. Now I'm gonna clean up, now I'm gonna clean up, now I'm gonna clean up the house. I'm taking all your garbage, taking all your garbage, taking all your garbage out.
It starts with some beer, so you shouldn't have fear. Two garbage guys with facts, but they both still have tact. It's that time at last for the best damn podcast. It's Can Crusher Day!
And welcome to another random hellish edition of Can Crushers, as I'm joined today by Chad Perena and IRS. What are you doing in Elk County?
You know, our family was getting together, having an early Thanksgiving, and it's nice to be back in the old stomping grounds, but not going to lie, I can't wait to go back to Pittsburgh, though.
I can't wait till you're back in Pittsburgh. Nonetheless, Chad, you are back from being actually in the hospital last weekend. That's why you didn't make an appearance on the show. How are you feeling?
Like shit.
But
it's a gradual going from runny diarrhea to a little bit more solid right now.
It's a plus.
That's the way the show is going. So right off the bat, before we get into any wrestling, I want to say thank you to Justin Placer. If you saw yesterday, we posted, dude dropped off 6 beers that we're going to try over the next couple weeks, and an awesome John Lester bobblehead of him hunting. So I'll show you both that after we record this train wreck. So I figured let's try this Buddha beer. It's called Lucky Buddha.
The bottle looks great.
It's a Buddha.
It is a Buddha.
It literally is.
It's a green Buddha.
It doesn't say the alcohol. Oh yeah, 4.8% alcohol. So it's not that bad. It's from China, so
Okay.
it's a legit. Soup's gonna go first, and we'll have this. Justin, thank you for always hanging out with us and talking about it.
It has a good taste.
Does it?
I would drink it, yeah. Has like an IPA taste to it, kind of.
Yeah, there's nothing bad about
But
that.
yeah, I would drink
And
I
I'll
would drink a
verify
six-pack
that
of
they are
those.
not making pucker lips or oh my
There's
god or nothing on
bad
this.
about that at all.
I would drink a 6-pack of that any day.
Yeah, 4.8% alcohol is not bad.
Oh, hell no.
It tastes just like a normal IPA. There's no fruit. It's just beer. It's just a beer taste.
Justin, next time, bring us 2 of those.
Yeah, please.
2 6-packs.
2 6-packs. So the way that we're going to start off all shows now, you guys know, is we're going to kind of reach into the email and drag one question out a week. And this one has been asked by several people, so I'm not going to give anybody the accolades of who asked it because it's been by a bunch of people. Let's dive right into this whole Jordan Miles deal that's going on. Weeks passed. He got a shirt. He went off. He quit. He actually got fired. People might know him as ACH
from Ring of Honor.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so we'll bounce around the board real quick. Great, as Chad's throwing up on the table.
It's just a lung.
It was on the floor, not the table.
All right. So let's start actually with Chad. Are you okay with that?
Works for me.
All right. What's your thoughts? We're going to keep this condensed. This has been a 4-week episode, but let's kind of just keep this condensed about what the hell's going on.
What I seen when it hit news was big skew over his shirt being racist. Okay, let me see the shirt. It's a black shirt with a pair of red lips on it with his name in the lips. That's it. I'm missing the point. It's not like it was is a caricature of him with really big lips going towards, unfortunately, racial stereotypes.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even that. It's a pair of red lips with his name in it.
Now, was the shirt approved by him, or did WWE just make the shirt? I mean,
I heard that when they passed it on to him, it was on a gray shirt. And then supposedly they put it on a black shirt, and that's where the whole blackface issue came in. So
and I've heard the same thing, but I've also seen that they are when it was showed to him, well, you know, colors. It's going to be available in typical wrestling shirt colors.
see, because then I have not seen the shirt until recently, and then I brought up, is it kind of like, and it's not, I might get flack on this across the board, but listen before you crucify me. Is it a smiley face like Smiley Kylie's? You know, she has a smiley face and eyes and everything on her shirt. Yippee shit. It's a smiley face on a shirt. But then he showed me the shirt, and I'm like, well, it's not much different. I didn't really see, and I don't know if it's, I'll throw all of us in on this. Is it our culture that's missing something, like the three of us? Is it just the shirt because it's black? Is it...
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt you, but that's
No.
that's the exact thing. It has been said by numerous anybody. If it was a white shirt, a gray shirt, a blue shirt, a purple shirt, a red shirt,
One fish, two fish, red fish,
and
blue fish,
you know
which-
whatever, that it's not a racial. It wouldn't be a racist, considered racist shirt, but because it's on a black shirt, it's considered racist. And I'm like,
But then all right, the Shield has, who is, and I know this is not the same comparison, but I'm just saying, the Shield always wears black, okay?
Mm-hmm.
They have blue shirts for the Shield. Does
Yeah.
this guy not know that it's not just going to be this shirt? So he got pissed off because the generic first shirt that he saw was the black shirt. I understand that there's other references, and I'm going to bring up, and I don't know what it's called. The clown, it's blackface with the...
yeah.
That's complete, that's just blackface. Is that what he's saying that shirt is?
No.
Him.
That's what he was saying, yeah.
Now see, there's where you get another thing of conflicting reports.
It's really good.
Of he says that WWE never showed it to him on a black shirt. WWE says they did. That's where the pissing match started between them. It wasn't that he was offended by it at all. It was that he started catching shit from other people. Oh, that's a racist shirt. What the hell are you doing with a racist shirt? What the hell are you talking about? Oh, your shirt's on a black shirt. That's when he became aware of it, that it was on the black shirt. So he caught shit before he could even have an opinion about it. And then it's a pissing match back and forth between the almighty McMahons and him. He said shit he shouldn't have said.
Well, I was going to say...
And he got fired.
Let's roll it to what he said now without repeating everything that he said, just verbatim. He goes on social media and just MFs and JCs and...
Every other word was the F word in that video.
All right, if you don't like... I don't like wearing the yellow shirts that I have to for work as a garbage man. They're stupid, all right? I don't like them. But they saved my life. I'm not getting run over by a jackass on 219. Can't you go up and go to creative, not storyline creative marketing, and say, could you have not shown me a different shirt first? Or is it going to be in red? Or is it going to be in purple? Why does he have to instantly get on social media and, or I'm going to be the shit stirrer? Is this his way of saying, I'm getting the hell out of this now?
You hit it.
Because WWF is shit in the bed, and I got my homeboys over in AEW that's going to give me a job tomorrow.
You hit it, in my opinion, you hit it exactly on the head. Any rational thinking person that doesn't play for the Cleveland Browns and beat people with helmets.
That's a whole nother.
But that's the whole thing right there. That gave him a reason to go off, and I don't want to say try to get fired, but yes, try to get removed from the situation, because WWE with him, along with a lot of others, are misusing him. They're signing him up, giving him big money, treating him like shit just to keep him away from other federations where they could be used. If you don't believe that's the case, look at John Moxley.
Yeah.
Dean Ambrose. Look at Chris Jericho. When the hell was Chris Jericho ever allowed to give the promos and stuff in WWE of any
He
time?
doesn't wear scarves anymore in AEW. Let me just say that.
But Chad, you do have a good point, because I don't watch a lot of NXT because I've been watching a lot of AEW Dynamite. But the NXT that I have seen, I haven't seen Jordan Miles on it to begin with. So it could just be a way that he wanted out because he wasn't getting used. And so he took that ball and ran with it.
Rich Swann, who was...
Well, Rich Swann was a completely other issue.
That
I'm
was
just saying
domestic
he was a-
violence and all
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
I mean, it was a...
And your boy Enzo.
Oh. Yeah,
Your
that,
boy Enzo.
I had my cup of haters
I
put it
got.
on last
I'm
night.
gonna say right now on Can Crushers podcast, I got $100 that says they don't get 30 minutes into the signing at WrestleCade before Enzo and or Cass is in some kind of brawl with somebody that
And we
tells
will
them.
have it live on Facebook Live if this happens, because we'll be there. I will pull up Facebook Live and break in instantly to get anything that Enzo's going to do, just so you can show how much of a jackass he is. Well, we're off topic for a minute. Staying with Jordan. So you agree with what I think? He did it now to get out. You are.
I'm on that train.
But then finally, it rolls back around, and instead of him leaving because he's never going to work for WWE again, this, that, and the other, WWE actually comes out the day later and says, well, we don't want you to work for us, you're fired. Who's saving, horrible word right here, who's saving face on this whole thing? Is WWE saying, well, we don't want a jackass like this working for us that's going to MF on all social media the kids are going to see because they're still the kid-friendly show?
Yeah.
Or is Jordan the one saying, hey, I'm actually got out before they fired me?
Yeah, it's one of the I quit, no, you're fired situations.
George Costanza type
It's
of
a
moment.
it's a tie.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tie. WWE gets rid of a problem child, doesn't have to pay the money. He gets out of a contract with
That
a
he
company
probably
that
is
he's
unhappy with.
that he's unhappy with in the lease, and that he knows he's never gonna
Amount to anything.
cruiserweight champion if he's lucky.
At the best,
maybe a
yeah.
whipping boy. Pardon that usage.
That was horrible
on
right there.
on WWE Raw or SmackDown. You know, is he going to be thrown in there and killed? You know, just beat the hell by
Braun
somebody?
Strowman in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, something, yeah.
I mean,
All right. To wrap up this segment and move on to our new segment that's coming up, how long before you see ACH or this person on AEW or another show? Does he have to wait? Since he's been officially fired, does he have to wait his 90 days?
no. When
He's
they
done.
when WWE terminates his contract, and that's why I think he did what he did. Once they terminate his contract and say you're fired, that no compete clause
Out
is
the door.
is automatically out the door. He could pull a Antonio Brown with the Patriots and sign 30 minutes later with another federation.
I see AEW staying away from him, though, for a little while. I could see that because I don't know if they want to jump right into this issue when they're brand new themselves. I could see maybe after the new year he could go there, but I could see him going right back to Ring of Honor first, maybe.
I think that would be a better fit. I don't think he pops up on NWA, which you both know NWA is my favorite right now. ROH would be the best thing for him to go back to right now to bring ACH back, get his name out there again, do a couple one-offs, two-offs, or whatever. I actually like what you say. New year, maybe second quarter of the new year, and then he could roll over as long as...
And he could even go, if he didn't want to go to a big federation, he could go on the independent scene. And unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, use this to his advantage to get signed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or to get matches, to get booking dates. It's no different than the Dick guy using his thing to wrestle, everywhere from IWC to
Now
TNA to Ring of Honor to wherever. Use it to his advantage. Go out there, make himself look good, and then have somebody court him. Maybe offer him something. Like you said, first quarter, second quarter of next year. I don't see it before that. I don't see him signing with any federation on a permanent basis until then.
All right, we're going to send it over to Chad's new shtick that he has. And guys, this is pre-recorded, so we did it a little bit ahead of time of the show, but we're adding it right now. And I love this segment. And we'll be back with AEW, WWE. We'll just wrap up this real quick. And it's now time for our new segment, In the News. Chad brought this back to us a couple weeks ago, and we've just shit the bed on it. But now this is part of In the News, as we are going to look at wrestling stories that affected the news different ways, right?
Yeah, everything from history of titles, lawsuits that were actually filed by fans and or promoters, or even one case, the IRS against wrestlers.
Erwin R. Shyster?
No, not that IRS.
Oh.
The actual big crook IRS.
Oh, okay.
But it's just going to be like a whole... Hey,
you have notebooks full of this.
Yes.
So you brought a couple today. What do you... let's start with something fun. Do you have a fun one? Okay.
Oh, here's a funny one. Great one to start off with. Black Saturday. Anybody in wrestling knows what the reference of that is. July 14th, 1984, when WWF took the Georgia time slot on WTBS. The Georgia Wrestling had been on there for 12 years. For those of you, Georgia Wrestling, what? Basically, it's the version of the NWA Power that you're seeing now, that we know these days. That's where the NWA Power really got the idea from. And the Georgia Wrestling had been on there for 12 years. This is Tony Schiavone, David Crockett. This is all your big names are always on there. 90% of the time, it was squash matches.
Right,
but they were pushing storylines. They developed. There was brawls. One of the most famous ones was when Magnum TA came back to wrestling after his accident, and the Magnum TA, Tully Blanchard, Dusty Rhodes took a baseball bat and beat the piss out of Tully Blanchard and hit Crockett. That was the Georgia Wrestling. So a lot of history right there. But the part that I want to go into is something that I read where Jim Crockett held a meeting with 13 of the territory promotions that fell under the NWA at that point. These were guys that included Bill Watts, Eddie Graham, Fritz Von Erich, Superstar Bill Dundee, and some other ones that made up the NWA territory. What was funny is it was how the meeting thing was, how are we to keep WWF from driving more of us out of business? Oh, let's get together, let's present bigger shows, blah blah blah. That is what led to what we know as a single NWA territory. That eliminated the territorial World Tag Team Champions, the territorial secondary title like your U.S. champion. They all came together and agreed. NWA champion, then you'll have your territorial, whatever, Southwest
Texas
Championship Wrestling, blah, blah, blah. But aside, really funny part of that, in reading, and I confirmed this in Jim Cornette's books and Bill Watts' book, is that a certain promoter brought up the idea, and remember, this is in the 80s, why don't we just have Vince picked off? Why don't we just have him taken out of the equation permanently? the words killed were never thrown out.
Okay.
Everybody said, why don't we just have them taken out of the equation permanently? There's hearsay on if there was a vote or anything like that, or what the vote was. But it was funny that 3 of the promoters that I just named had no problem with the issue, according to multiple sources.
Wow.
One being Bill Watts, which not overly surprising. The other one being Bill Dundee, which is kind of like, he's kind of got a little bit of a temper, but still not overly surprising. And the one that doesn't no surprise at all, I would think would have been the first one, was Fritz von Erich. Yeah. Who was going to do it, how they were going to get it done, everything like that. Can't find a lot of detail on it because I think at that point they started getting, this probably isn't the forum to talk about this on.
Right.
But the idea was actually brought up
to
take out Vince McMahon.
Quotes, take out Vince.
Take out Vince. No joke, no storyline. And you got to think of these guys that you're talking about. The Southern, nothing against the South or anything like that, but mob hits,
Yep.
Organized crime, stuff like that.
Wow.
So that was real surprising to me when I read it, and I was like, no freaking way. And then I go into a couple other sources, which Scott Teal is one, Crowbar Press. It's covered in a couple of books of his. Jim Cornette's 2 of his books. It's covered in his. Bill Watts, Bill Dundee's own personal books, all covered in there. Just something I found pretty interesting. It's like, this is when people really took this seriously. It's like, if you're gonna F with my income and my family,
right,
I'm gonna have you waffled in the alley with a fucking tire iron.
That's a great one to start. I don't know if you can trump any others. I mean, that's a great one to start with this week. Holy crap.
That was a total wrestling one. Here's a little history one. Some may know, some may not know. November 30th, 1979, Antonio Inoki defeats Bob Backlund for the WWF title in Japan. Not a big surprise. A lot of people know about it. But the story behind it is that Vince Sr. did this title change as a favor to Antonio Inoki because the NWA had done the same thing for Inoki's rival, Giant Baba. Now, okay, we don't, they didn't want to look bad. Well, he got the world title, but I didn't. So they come up with this. What's funny about it is this isn't counted against any of these wrestlers' records.
Nope.
It's not counted against Harley Race. It's not counted against Inoki. Bob Backlund, it's not, when I say counted, it's not recognized.
It only took place there.
Yep. And it actually, with the Race and Giant Baba, there was 3 switches of the title in a 2-week span in this 2-week tour over there. And it's like, it's not, like I said, it's not in the records. It doesn't show anything. And, my initial first thoughts when I'm reading this, well, doesn't that kind of cheapen the title reigns back then? And then it really hit me. That's why this stuff didn't count. Because they were doing it, in my opinion, they were doing it for money. They were doing it as a favor. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. But they didn't want the American fans, because you didn't have the internet. You didn't have this.
You didn't know about this.
You just didn't know about it. And they didn't want it to cheapen what the title reigns were being made at that time in the U.S. was Vince Sr.'s outlook on it. And this is covered extensively in Bob Backlund's autobiography, where he talks about it. And he had absolutely no problem with it. He's like, it's business. He's like, that's what you do. They help us out when we're over there. We help them out.
To piggyback that one and to wrap this up then pretty much is if you know the story of Ric Flair is more like a 25-time champion than 16 because he had to lose the titles just to save his life sometime to get out of the
arenas.
territory or the arena or whatever. So those were not recognized either. So this is kind of the same thing. You scratch my back, I'll let you live to get the hell out of Mexico or places that he was at.
And we'll just get the title back to you, and it's as if nothing happens. And here's one that we talked to one of the greatest minds in wrestling at the Crockett Cup about. Jim Cornette asked him straight up, "What's the story about Harley Race in Abilene, Texas?" Well, you had a local promoter there was bringing the NWA in and Harley Race in. And the way it pretty much went back in those days is the promoter was generally your top babyface.
Right.
The top babyface is going to get the title shot against the incoming bad guy world champion. Well, this gentleman, I didn't write this one down just because it was kind of a little bit short. But this gentleman got the wild idea up his ass that he was going to pull a fast one and get the title from Race. And this, we could go into the screw jobs and everything like that. This is one of them. This is one of the, bigger ones. Well, he gets it in his idea. He's going to take the title from Race in one way or another. So he sets up a camera up on a balcony.
Nobody knows about
Nobody knows about it. And he's taping it. Well, one of the spots was he was to roll Harley up in a small package, get a 2 count, Harley kicks out. Well, 1, 2, guy cinches up, referee has to hit 3 or it's going to blow everything up. Referee hits 3, guy grabs the title and runs. Harley Race is pissed.
Livid.
And this is one guy, this is like along the lines of Haku and a couple other, you just didn't piss with him. And Harley went into the back, kicked the door down, went up to the guy tried to, hey, Harley punched him in the face, give me my damn title back, and walked out. That title change ain't, that title loss ain't reflected. Yeah, never happened. And this just precludes all the champions back then had to be able to handle themselves in a situation like this. They didn't have nothing against some of the guys today, or a lot of the guys today, but they could not have somebody like
the English professor
or Fandango, about the same.
Yeah.
They couldn't have them as world champions because they go into one of these territories and they may be able to take a guy in a little bit of a fight, but
You're cinched up.
You're cinched up. You're not going to be able to do anything.
Yeah.
So they had to be able to cover themselves.
Nice. Hey, that's a great beginning to this. And those are the stories that you're going to get in the news segment with Chad, as he's got more. He really does have more. Do one more. Hell with it. We'll do one more for today and then wrap this up.
Okay, finances or Rock and Roll Express?
Rock and Roll Express.
Okay, of course. That's one I was hoping you'd go with anyway. Okay, Rock and Roll Express. Regarded as, I think now up to 8-time NWA Tag Team Champions.
I think you just ruined NWA Power this week, but that's okay.
If you haven't seen NWA Power...
it's next week, actually.
Next week.
Yeah, precursor to tomorrow's show.
But they're, recognized as through the different generations of the NWA, from when the Crockett's had it to now when Corrigan has it. But their 4th title win was never a title win. No. They never won the titles.
We speak of this one between you, myself, and the English professor. We speak of this one a lot. This one always just wraps back around, and I know what you're going to say, so go ahead.
The champions at the time were Rick Rude and Manny Fernandez, managed by Paul Jones. They had beat the Rock and Roll Express X months earlier. They were actually in a decent length run. I believe it was almost 6 months.
6 months to 7 months, yeah.
Rain, And Rick Rude got courted by WWF.
See you later.
So Rude disappeared, took the title with him, and disappeared. Manny Fernandez was left there holding the other tag title like, WTF, and what the hell were they going to do? Were they going to admit that their one half of their second biggest title just walked to the former or walked to their rival? No. So what they do is took a couple of snapshots from
matching like Greensboro, Spartansville, and
yeah,
someplace else.
House shows, sorry, and put them together and said that the Rock and Roll Express had won them in X town at this point. Again, this all goes back to not having the internet, not having the access to that stuff. So by the time that you find out, well, this is bullshit, they didn't really win them, you're 2, 3, 4 months down the road and the titles are probably gone from them at that point anyway. What this actually...
And Rude is on WWF.
And Rude is on WWF. Now, he never took the title on there or anything like that. This was one of the leading ones that started the look at intellectual property and not taking titles and disappearing to the other federation. But what this one led to is, if you remember the old tag team titles, they were they look like the Backlund era style of title. Just gold with everything etched out, everything real pretty titles. This caused the NWA to come up with a new style, a new title belt within a month, which was, gold, has the world on the front of it, NWA at the top, a little bit of color. One version was...
They're pretty fancy.
Yeah, they're actually sexy as hell. Especially the black ones. The first ones that come out, the black leathered ones, stitched. Awesome looking belt. Then they came out with another version, a blue leathered version. Just
nice.
It looked kind of kid-like to me. But that's what led to those titles being changed, and that's how the Rock and Roll Express got their 4th reign as NWA champs.
Title. All right, that is in the news, and coming up next is a host more of Wrestling Talk.
Wrestling. A love and a passion we all share. I've started a wrestling brand. The wrestling brand. A brand founded on the aspects of wrestling. 2 entities working together to create a product that connect emotionally for people everywhere. Collar and Elbow is the brand. Passion and love for wrestling is the drive. I am Al Snow, and this is Collar and Elbow, the wrestling brand.
Yo! It's Johnny Patch, the American Daredevil, the Super Indie Champion, and you're listening to Can Crushers Podcast.
And welcome back to Can Crushers. I hope you guys like that new segment that Chad brought to the table. It's pretty cool to go back and, the English professor will probably like that, especially being called out there at the end. Just getting to know some of the stuff behind what happened, and the Flair title changes all the time. We all talk about those, but all right, let's talk about what happened in wrestling this week. And realistically, we're going to talk a lot about AEW, throw in a little NWA because Chad and I watched it. WWE, we could just kind of glance over. We might as well glance over it right now. Raw, I stayed up for 3 hours for no reason.
Yeah, lately, with they were all pre-taped shows over in the UK, so spoilers were out before the shows aired here in the States.
I didn't like from the start that Becky Lynch fills in for Nat because she's got family issues, but she's being publicized in Germany that she had to go back to, Calgary, family issues, this, that, or the other. She's in Germany. Just say she's in Germany. She's not getting the title shot. Becky Lynch and Flair are. And how did they get a title shot then?
Well, the week before, Nat and Charlotte beat the Kabuki Warriors. So I see that's how they were getting the title shot. But yeah, for them to just throw Becky in, I don't know if they had a backstage segment where they're like, hey, I don't like you, you don't like me, but let's get together or something like that. That would have been cool or something, but...
Just no backfill to it, no reasoning other than, okay, she's not going to be here, so we're going to throw in our number one female in the company, arguably, just to
get a pop.
Yeah, just to get a pop. That's what it was.
So why not? If you know you've booked this, you are the bookers, you own the freaking company. Why does it have to happen next week? Why can't Nat now?
Yeah, why couldn't they push it
to real tomorrow?
Yeah. Why couldn't they do that? But who knows?
This is a Vince. This is a Vince thing. He will do shit that doesn't make sense in any way, shape, or form just to do it for his own entertainment.
And all it led up to is
disqualification.
NXT coming.
Yeah, Baszler gets involved, distracts Lynch. Kabuki Warriors roll them up. Bayley ends up coming in, laying out Lynch, setting up that Survivor Series match, which I am intrigued for. The Bayley, Becky versus Shayna triple threat. That should be a good match.
They're going to screw us over at some point, though.
I could see it, yeah.
Because...
Yeah, which match do they totally ruin and totally dick up to the point that we want to, pop their heads off their shoulder like a Zed? That's what they're going to do. Next
week we'll have we'll be heavy Survivor Series predictions next week as we just roll through it. Because it'll be right before Survivor Series. Next Sunday's Survivor Series, we'll do our predictions at the end of the show. Maybe one of us will bet some beers or something. But other than that, Raw, all right, I'll ask you guys because we haven't brought it up on the show. Are you giving two shits about Lana, Rusev, and Bob?
No.
I was intrigued at first. The first 2-3 weeks of it, maybe. But then Lana coming out, oh, you're addicted to sex, but I'm going to go have sex with this guy instead. I was lost after that. So why leave your husband, who's addicted to sex supposedly, to go have sex with this other guy?
Right. SmackDown is 2 hours, and I watched it in a half an hour. That's how much I was completely invested. I told you guys I will not watch SmackDown live. Friday nights are going to be a family night, a night, we're going here, we're going there. Mm-hmm. It's never going to get a click for me on the real ratings because I'm not happy that it's on Friday nights. The English Professor has forgotten that it's on now because it's on Fridays. Mm-hmm. Stupid move. They never show, or I don't dive into it to find out what they're getting on Fox, but I can't imagine they're getting great ratings on Fox.
They're the lowest of... SmackDown is the lowest of the WWE 3 shows.
And that's unbelievable because Fox paid
under NXT.
$1 billion for them.
But Mark, we talked about this
I know.
A couple of weeks ago. Fox is making Vince, just say it, it's Vince. They're making him, you want this money, we want each nationality on the show, we want X, amount, really blah, 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 blah. And what Vince is doing...
They wanted a blue universal title?
Yeah, and he is sabotaging his own show because in a year they can say, you know what, ratings suck. It's not what we expected. We're letting you go find someplace else.
Go back to USA.
And he's going to go back to USA, and he's going to be able to put his, crappy sex humor storylines. I said, why not bring Triple H and Katie whatever back and have him have Triple H humping a mannequin in a coffin now.
Wow. We're in the waybacks today all of a sudden. Another invasion on SmackDown this time it is the Undisputed Era, which nothing against them. I love them.
Yeah, they're good.
But you just saw it coming. When New Day and the Revival do 2 commercial breaks and there's no finish yet, and as soon as they come back from commercial, you hear, the guitar riff and then boom, they're out there. it was a good match. Like, those are probably
Yeah, two great teams.
Yeah.
Two great teams.
You got arguably the best team
in
wrestling today
Yeah.
in there, and I'm not an overly large fan of the New Day, but
They're good.
They're
Great
a good
marketing,
team.
you know.
But-
But yeah.
Yeah. So once again,
I want to throw in real quick. I saw something where the Revival on Twitter
that was
have
on. You saw it on
I
Can
did
Crushers.
new profile pictures doing the Young Buck shtick where they're flexing, and I heard they want to re-sign.
They do not.
I wouldn't if I was them.
They do not. But all right, now that we've teased long enough, the biggest news in WWE, no, it's not WWE, it's Fox, is who's back with Fox to be on Tuesday night. And I'm excited about it. Chad doesn't look excited.
Oh no, I'm absolutely pumped about it.
Now you're going to tape it Tuesday night, right?
I'll just to
You'll
see
be up
him
because you're not a garbage man.
I'll tune in. That's for sure. CM Punk.
Yeah, and this has been teased. Everybody in Can Crusher Nation knows CM Punk's been one of my favorite wrestlers since and forever.
You got a tattoo of him?
Yeah, I do.
I share a birthday with him.
He is just that damn good. He's that damn marketable. Right now, he is with Fox. Okay.
Yeah, he's not signed
Cool.
to WWE.
Cool. He's still in the door with WWE.
Mhm.
I put the question out there on Facebook this week. When's his first match? When does he come back? And I have to agree with what Chad said right off the bat. Royal Rumble.
and
Wow, yeah.
In the Royal Rumble.
And I'll go here. Here's a comparison how I see them bringing them in, or an idea. You remember what was the talk show with Renee and Booker T
On the
a
network?
year back or so, and they brought Daniel Bryan in, and he was commenting, and then the Miz comes in and starts shit with Daniel Bryan,
It was right
Where's that
after SmackDown.
talking smack?
talking smack.
Yeah.
Okay, so they bring in CM Punk. Now, what happens if they get somebody on there and they start to, Punk, you're an idiot. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. You've been out. You really don't have the right to talk about this. They start an angle right there,
Oh.
and then bring them in, and then have something happen at the Royal Rumble. I see the Royal Rumble because they're going to use them there, and then feeding right into WrestleMania.
Yeah, I
And-
see this first actual match probably at WrestleMania, but that'd be cool to see him in the Royal Rumble.
Oh, since his last match was at WrestleMania, his first match returns back at WrestleMania. I like where you're going.
Well, his last match was Royal Rumble in Pittsburgh.
Oh, all right. Well, I'm an idiot. But everybody knows that. All right, so that's the big news with WWE. CM Punk takes everything. We did crown our tournament trios of trials, or whatever the hell Padlino called it. The Shield won, and the only reason why I voted for the Shield was for Sylvan. That's it. The Mrs. English Professor put out this nice note to some people in her shtick saying, my son really wants him to win this fabricated tournament, and I got pissed at her about that, saying it's a fabricated tournament. This is a real tournament we're
What
putting
the
on.
hell, Cheryl?
Right. We have another tournament in the hopper. We have 2 or 3 ideas getting thrown around this square table. We have a league that we need to sit down and talk about. I think we run it after WrestleMania for months, because that'll eat up a lot of the dead time. You have no clue what we're talking about, Soup. But Chad and I
But I'm
do.
intrigued.
It's a league of unprofessional men having professional wrestlers in their pocket. It's great. And that might be actually the name of it, Unprofessional Wrestling League.
I'm intrigued.
Okay. All right. Let's shift over to AE Dubs. And I do not turn the channel at all Wednesday nights. It just doesn't happen. Because something might happen that you're like, holy shit. Either good or bad right now.
I've changed the channel to NXT, but for no longer than 30 seconds, and then I jump right back into Dynamite. It's just still fresh and it's new. I'm interested in it, and they're doing a good job.
Yeah, you don't know what they're going to pull. I mean, when it comes to commercials, I'll see what the hell's going on in NXT if I'm, going to watch it at a later date. Or if, unfortunately, sometimes AEW, they have a match that I really could give a rat's ass less about, like Riho and Sakura or something like that. okay, I'm going to see what's on NXT. But never for any amount of time.
Because you know what happened on NXT? There was another invasion.
You wouldn't say.
Every show since they started pumping up Survivor Series has had invasions. So let me stop here and ask you both this. Chad's giving me the finger. Let me stop here and ask you this. Does an invasion that many times matter?
It kind of soils it. Honestly, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's watering it down. But here's something on that. The best invasions have happened on NXT.
Of course.
The AJ Styles and the OC in the Undisputed Era, last week. And
Well, why is
Ciampa.
that?
Because Vince doesn't have his dirty little grubby pissy paws in it.
Okay. I thought you were going to go worse than that. So that's all right. All right, so let's talk about AEW's. Quick matches. The first hour was all quick matches. They had like 6 matches in that first hour. Squash matches, more or less. Mox against
Nakazawa.
And he didn't use the baby oil, so I'm all right with that.
Yeah, he's Omega's friend, so that kind of builds towards that storyline between Moxley and Omega. Omega wasn't cleared, but Moxley was. And that just shows, he was able to take Omega out at Full Gear that much, where he was okay and Omega wasn't. So that helps build that story. But then he goes out and he challenges the whole locker room.
And it gets answered later on. And I'm excited about that next week.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Now, with him and Omega, what do you guys think that they're developing that storyline? Because they're not done with Moxley and Omega, not by far.
No.
So are they pushing a thing where Omega thinks, do I have it anymore? I mean, am I really that soft? And does he put his career on the line in a match?
That makes perfect sense. And with the youngness of AEW, that just, sorry to spoil it already, there's no way he's losing a career match
I wouldn't
yet.
think so, no.
No.
Chad says
I'm not a Kenny Omega fan, but we can sit here and say there's no way he loses a career match. Okay? Exactly how many wins and how are Omega, the Young Bucks, and Cody doing in NXT? Or in AEW? Because you can say that, they're not gonna have him lose a match. But honestly, the guys running the show are the ones doing most horribly record-wise in the ring.
But isn't that,
And I like that.
Isn't that good?
No, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but we can't think inside the box that they're not going to have their big star lose a career match. What do you say they have them lose a career match?
I think something's going to get these records I talked about last week. I think these records at some point are no good because of same thing I brought up last week. Joey Janela's 1-10 right now, or whatever. What makes Moxley or anybody want to fight Janela? Because
an easy win.
Right, but great, you get an easy win over somebody 1-10. Does that actually bump you in these fabricated their rankings are as good as our tournaments?
These rankings were brought in, and Cody went on the record as saying they wanted to bring back the feel of the 80s wrestling where, all your magazines had your top 10. Your champion was always at the top. Mm-hmm. Then your secondary title was
2 or 3.
They was actually number 1. Your champion was always listed on his own thing. Then your secondary title was number one contender, and then you ran down the thing. And I remember back when Bret Hart was going for the title, and they brought up him going against Luger, and the only match that he lost, Bret lost in a 6-month period, was a house show with Luger in Mississippi. That's where the angle they're kind of going with that. How are they going to develop it?
I mean,
we'll see. It's like,
we have to stop nitpicking. The Dark Order against Jurassic Express, as much as whatever, I like the Dark Order because there's a big fat guy and there's a guy that can do some stuff. It's the strong, it's the
It's a good mix.
It's a good mix. It's
The machines
their
from the
shtick-
WWF.
Their shtick is just, I don't like the rest of the idiots running out with them. Why can't they just come out by themselves?
Well, it makes them feel, that they have some kind of power over those guys, so I can get into it. But the big thing was Luchasaurus is back.
Yeah,
he
that's
comes
what
and
that-
saves
yeah.
Jungle Boy and Marco Stunt, and he looks good.
He destroyed anybody and everybody.
He beat all the creepers, and he was able to, get them on top, and I could see him being a big player here in AEW.
It's something we have to watch out for, and I seen there were some reviews on some of the pages about his return is they're hoping that they're not bringing him back too soon because they said he looked really stiff, looked really pained in doing what he did. And he just, did a bunch of kicks. That first curb stomp kick from the shoulder down absolutely looked brutal.
It did.
But let's not bring him back and get him injured because
Don't give
he's
him a
pretty
match yet.
damn.
Don't give him a match yet.
Let him do the run-ins or do the stuff like that or helping those guys out. Maybe get rid of Marco Stunt, but keep him like that. He's not ready to come back. If he has a torn quad, no way in hell in a month.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Next match, the only reason why I'm going to talk about it is the end. I am not a Shawn Spears fan whatsoever. The only reason why I like Shawn Spears is Tully Blanchard. That's it. Done. Peter Avalon, the librarian, with Leva Bates, the librarian. These are their jokester, their jobbers.
Joe Bears.
Yeah, Joe Bears, whatever. I do like them. And then you throw Darby Allin in the mix, and
He's a rising star.
Darby gets the win. It's a brutal three-way match. It really was. And at the end, Darby says, "Hey, Mox, I'll take that challenge."
Yeah, 4 words. John Moxley, I accept, sets up a very good anticipated match for next week between 2 hard-hitting death match type guys. So
Very, very physical guys. And something I'm going to throw out there, something that I just seen coming with this. Moxley says he doesn't like anybody. You can all kiss my ass in the back, in the dressing room and everything. Darby Allin comes out there and gives him a hell of a match. Moxley respects that. Now, does Moxley now have maybe
friend.
not necessarily a partner, but a friend? Does
Maybe.
this work into some angle backwards wise with Omega and a partner?
Yeah.
there's different options, so let's see where it goes.
Next match, Nyla just crushed Danny Jordan. Enough said. Allie finally makes an appearance on Dynamite, which I'm excited, but then she just gets taken out because I love this. I love Brandy and Kong together, cutting people's hair, just rampaging the women's division.
It's creepy when they come in and you're like, okay, they're gonna jump them, beat the hell out of them, do something like that, and then she pulls out a freaking knife, and it's like, what the hell is she taking lessons off of the Briscoes from ROH where they're pulling out fish knives on people
And
and
this
stuff?
knife isn't like a butter knife or it's
like a hook.
Yeah.
It's like a...
and she, cutting the hair thing. Is she making a voodoo doll of all the women? That's
or are
what
they
I'm
going to make a
thinking.
wig?
Is she
Yeah,
pulling
we're-
their strengths, their weakness? Is it going to be some creepy?
This is cool.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see where they're going with it.
Now the three of us will say this is the next. This is the greatest segment of wrestling this week on wrestling. Jericho and Cody and MJF and it starts with MJF and Jericho going back and forth.
It was great, too. It was
What?
entertaining.
Do you want to be part of Camp Crush Nation? Do you want me to be part of
Do you
Camp
want
Crush
me to be a part of it?
I asked you first. No, I asked you first.
I love the Laurel and Hardy thing was great.
They went in MJF for being so
Dickish.
inexperienced
Young,
and
yeah.
dickish, and Jericho for being the veteran and everything. And I'm sorry, there's no way that I could have kept a straight face doing what they did. None.
None.
And they both did. And oh my God, did it sell both of their qualities.
And then they hug. Then they are they together. We think they're together because they do hug, right?
Yes, yeah.
They do hug. Cody comes out.
Now, come on, Mark. You're not gonna talk about the insult.
All right, go ahead.
Come on.
Go ahead.
They're going back and forth, and Jericho's like, You know, we got a lot in common. We both wear scarves. Wonder where that was a cheap shot, too. We're both handsome, very good looking and everything. And MJF's agreeing, thinking, you know, yeah, I got him going. And he says, it's almost like your mom and dad...
This is great.
Your mom and dad started got horny watching me beat the hell out of Juventud Guerrero 25 years ago. And he kept his composure. MJF kept his, and then you hear a little voice in the background. Tony Schiavone said, "Shit, I gotta laugh at that."
That's great.
Yeah.
And then MJF, the only possible line he could deliver: "Who the hell's Juventud?"
Right.
Google it, kid.
Right.
Okay,
It was
now.
great. No, it was great. All right. Cody then comes out and... All right, we all saw we're going to put the air quote botch up. I'm sure Cornette hated this or other people have hated it. But I love the way, and the English professor talks about it, I love the way that Schiavone and JR covered the botched power slam at first. That Cody's not cleared. He doesn't have his legs under him. He still's got...
He got that gash on his head.
I love how they covered. They knew he shit the bed on it.
But it wasn't Cody, if you read statements
Jericho,
afterward.
whoever.
Jericho admitted that he screwed it up, that it wasn't Cody's fault.
He was kind
that
of
it was
dead
a screw.
weight.
But
It doesn't...
but the way they covered it, the way Schiavone and Ross covered it, it was like it was almost like they almost planned it,
Right.
you know, to do that.
And Cody,
Professionals.
Cody all of a sudden not being cleared takes both of them out until Wardlow's World hits AEW, and I was screaming like a child when he came out.
I
He is
texted you as
thrusted
soon as it
into-
happened.
He is
Same.
all of you
Yeah.
did. All three of us did. We IWC original thrusted right into the main event,
With
and
the main guy.
I'm so
of the
happy
company.
for Wardlow. I was going to almost say his real name. I'm so happy for Wardlow. This is amazing for him. And he looked great. If they just keep him doing this for a little bit to build up for a first match, he's going to be... I don't know. I want to compare him to some other huge, big bodyguard that first started, you know, when Nash was just first the bodyguard or something. Or Sid
For
Vicious
HBK, yeah.
But see, even with those, they brought him in. Yeah, they had him in storylines, but they're bringing Wardlow in.
Balls to the wall.
Yeah, you're right up. You're going. There's two big guys. The two biggest guys in that company are Cody and Jericho.
And he's with both of them.
And
he's
on
in the
Jericho's
circle.
side.
Yeah.
Well, he's not in. If
He's
you've
not in the
seen the
inner
thing
circle
on
necessarily.
AEW, he's not with Jericho, but he is with MJF.
Mm-hmm.
So now what do you got going on? Okay, MJF and Jericho's inner circle, bad guys. So is he building, another faction?
Right.
You don't have to have all bad guys and all good guys going against each other. You can have the bad guys if they play it right.
It's got to be played right, though. You say exactly because the bad guy storyline, we touched on this last week, is such a fine line to work on, because if you could get a face turn when you don't want it. I mean, you just had MJF a face. Now he's bad, okay? Do we want him to be face instantly again to go against Jericho? I don't.
No.
I like MJF like this. And Wardlow...
He's not a believable good guy. When they were having him acting as a good guy, it's like, what the
F...
what the hell? That's no.
Right. But we've seen Wardlow over the last year. He was a good guy in IWC, and we love him. We love him, and we loved everything he did there. But 2 years back, when he was dastardly and a bad guy, it was 10 times better work. Not that he was working bad before I get thrown under the bus. He's a better bad guy than he is face.
Well, he looks like a
Bad-
a bad guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he looks like. What are you gonna do? You gonna have Wardlow come in as a good guy and have, I don't know. Let's say Marco Stunt decides to be a bad guy. All of a sudden, you gonna have him beating Wardlow up?
No.
Right.
Right.
Okay, you got to use your guys as what they look more so as. And keep the heat between the bad guys and the bad guys. Have something go on there.
Pac against Hangman, hard-fought match. I thought the last match that they had together was their rubber match, but apparently this was their rubber match now. You know, they've had a couple matches together. I'm still not... I've never been a Neville fan or a Pac fan. I love Hangman, though. I really do.
See, I like Pac. I like his bastard. I like bad guys. And he fits that good. Just like we were saying, he looks like a bad guy, and he can play it off good, and he's great in the ring.
And he's, you know, when he was in WWE as Neville,
they tried making him a good guy.
They could have done so much better with him. Even as a good guy, he would have been a good secondary title holder.
Mm-hmm.
Because he could go with anybody. I mean, if you can have a match with John Cena and look good coming out of it, you're doing something right. But again, it wasn't as jacked up. He wasn't as dark looking as he is now. He's another one. Yeah, he can do the good guy thing, but he's so much better as a bastard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Bucks and LAX got in a scuffle backstage, and everybody and their brother got involved. A couple people went through the stage again, and all right.
I did like, I believe it was Santana threw one of the Bucks into the bathroom door, and the door flies open, and who do you see standing there?
Pockets.
Orange Cassidy.
Pockets. I still don't understand what he does.
I don't get his stick, but I like it.
It's just do something with him now. Okay, I've seen him with his hands in his pockets, my little buddy pockets. Enough. Let's do something. Do something with him. It's getting to the point where you're playing the McMahon card of being irritating until people are almost ready to say, "Screw you, we're not going to turn in."
Yeah,
it's getting close to that for me.
For him, I just don't understand what he is. And then
but also, Private Party got involved in all that, and I think that's building towards Pride and Powerful versus Private Party for next week, so that should be a good match.
SCU against Sammy and Jericho, and Jake Hager was with them. Jericho's team wins, and
they lost. Jericho's team.
Jericho's team lost.
Why did I put that they won?
Because they're stupid.
All right.
Scorpio Sky. They won. They beat the Lucha Bros for those titles with a roll-up, and Scorpio Sky gives Jericho his first loss in AEW.
In the middle of the ring.
Clean.
Clean as can be. And it looked good.
Were you watching NXT?
No, I must have fell asleep.
Were you watching the back of your eyelids?
I might have been watching the back of my eyelids. But another good AEW.
Mm-hmm.
How about the pay-per-view?
We touched that last week. You decided to be sick in hospital.
Oh, excuse the hell out of me.
We can rewind for a little bit because we're getting close on the old time. You want to bring up something about the pay-per-view?
I was just thinking, the Cody angle with, taking that chunk out of his head and everything like that, not going to wrestle for the title. Another case of the top guys trying to get the other guys under them developed.
Get them over, yeah.
I see that's what they're doing.
That's not going to happen long term.
Well, if you look back,
at some point Cody will hold us one more time.
Right. But what now it opens up to, okay, he can't go after the world title. So what happens? Does
do him and Dustin get
do
together
him and
for
Dustin
the tag?
do the tag titles?
Dustin's still out.
Yeah.
They did announce he should be back in a couple
soon.
weeks,
Yeah.
so yeah.
It's just, I like the thing of them not pushing themselves right up to the top, not putting themselves up until Cody into the title picture. We've talked numerous times offline and on here. I hate the Young Bucks. I think they're. I'll say it again, like I said 2 weeks ago. They're as useless as tits on a boar hog. They're not that
Normally
good.
people say barrel, but since he's a hunter, he says a barrel.
They're not. You can't compare them to guys like the Rock and Roll Express and stuff like that. There's no comparison.
No.
None. I'm glad they're not on top.
They will be though.
They will be
eventually.
But you got to get the guys. If you just throw them in and on top, then you have buried. No matter how you do it, you have buried the undercard talent at that point. Because then what are you going to do?
Nothing.
make them come in, have somebody come up that they already beat and all of a sudden beat them for the titles. It's not going to make sense.
Because, going back in time to the late 90s, you had Hogan, Nash, Hall, the NWO. They were part bookers, and they kept putting themselves over, and any new star got buried. Where here, the Elite, you got the Bucks, Omega, and Cody, all lose at the pay-per-view to put other stars over because people are already behind the Elite. So if you can get people behind other people, then you got two groups of wrestlers that people are behind. So it's a good start, if you ask me.
This one last thing with that I wanted to say about the records and stuff like that. The whole comment about doing the records and everything is a direct shot at Vince.
Oh, I agree.
And his crap of saying win-loss records don't count.
Right.
I can take anybody and make them the world champion on any day of the week after they just lost to anybody.
Look at Kurt Hawkins.
Kurt Hawkins.
Oh, in 180
And then,
something, and then he wins the tag title.
The guy who
for
had the
WrestleMania.
title for 6 months that AJ beat.
I know who
that-
you're thinking.
that Jack-
Jinder.
Yeah.
Jinder Mahal. Oh, yeah, that was a useless title reign.
Mm-hmm.
What'd they get out of that? Randy Orton in a Punjabi prison match being
My
chokeslammed by
God,
Khali.
And they brought Khali
All right.
back.
Here comes the professor.
The tires on the custom-made white with leopard interior Cadillac screeched over the sound system. The curtain opened, and the left arm of the bad guy swaggered into sight. As the slow, swanky beat of El Jefe's theme blared, the camera faded away from his entrance to show the crowd's reaction. Some fans jumped out of their seats, anxious to see Razor Ramon on Raw again, while others watched skeptically to make sure it was really him. I whined to Mark and my brother Dom. What's the point of bringing Razor and Diesel back now that they've exposed their real names? You really think anybody cares? Dom assured me. He was right. I didn't care. None of us did. A small part of us really believed Razor Ramon had returned and was going to pick up where he left off. Dom pointed out the obvious. You notice how they cut away before they showed him. Mark understood Dom's point and turned the channel to Nitro to prove or disprove what we were all thinking and dreading. Sitting on the Nitro table with his feet propped up and sporting the undeniable slicked hair with one curl and 4 days' worth of scruff was Scott Hall. And just to be sure Diesel wasn't coming back, sitting next to the four-time former Intercontinental Champion was Kevin Nash. They had just taken over Nitro and were putting on headsets to call the matches. A quick switch back to Raw showed a cheap knockoff of Razor Ramon that was more insulting than your mom buying you those drugstore discount Masters of the Universe type wrestling figures from 1985 that only marginally resembled Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan, or the Iron Sheik. How do you like that, WWF? Jim Ross shouted. JR and Vince McMahon had been in a feud over Ross's on-again, off-again employment with Titan Sports, in which Ross claimed to have been fired for having a stroke. This was an edgy, controversial storyline that only cracked the surface of what was to be the Monday Night Wars. With the exceptions of Rowdy Roddy Piper and Greg the Hammer Valentine putting their JCP feud to rest on a segment of Piper's Pit in which the two wrestlers stood chest to chest before shaking hands, or the WWF sprinkling in occasional Jimmy Snuka highlights even after the Superfly had long left for the AWA, or the TNT episode in which Vince McMahon and Lord Alfred Hayes interviewed Buddy Rogers with his lordship praising the Nature Boy's accomplishments by acknowledging his 2 world championships by reminding him, "You're the only person to ever hold the WWF Championship and the other one. Oh, what is it? The I don't remember." Vince Jr.'s WWF acted as though no other promotion existed. But in the 90s, McMahon confessed to being tired of getting kicked and abused by the competition, and he was determined to fight back. So JR reminded us, it's not about covering a bald spot. It's not about tearing your shirt off and posing. It's about getting in the ring and getting it done. Vince would follow that up with a throw to that week's episode of Billionaire Ted featuring the Nacho Man and the Huckster. Competition was good for the fans, the workers, better for the WWF, and in the end, not so good for WCW. Every week, fans got the very best of what both promotions had to offer. Employees got better contracts. Just the rumor of Razor Ramon and Diesel returning to the WWF got Scott Hall and Kevin Nash raises, even though they were already locked into contracts. Each week, Vince would put a piece of cheese in the trap, and Eric Bischoff would nibble and get swatted. Bischoff would give away the results to Vince's matches. Don't bother turning it to Raw. Shawn Michaels beat Sid with the super kick. The match is 3 weeks old. Fans turned to Raw to see Michaels end his feud with Sid. Bischoff challenged Vince to a real fight. Fans turned to Raw and watched the full episode to see if Vince would accept the challenge. Every week, the biggest fight wasn't for a belt or a prize purse. It was for us. They fought for our attention, like we were the coolest kids in school, when likely none of us were. Every segment of each hour had to be must-see television. The greatest victory in pro wrestling history, Vince's triumph over WCW and ECW in a no-holds-barred triple threat match, was the biggest loss for fans because there was no other promotion to push the WWF and challenge their creativity. Instead, they were bogged down with a greater oversaturation of talent than the late 80s mass exodus of stars from Jim Crockett Promotions to the WWF. Nearly 20 years later, the WWE is attempting the invasion angle that would have been cool in 2001. As AEW begins to get its footing, we fans can assess the current state of pro wrestling and determine what good or harm competition has done. While I have enjoyed AEW since the episode of Dynamite and was blown away, no pun intended, by their recent pay-per-view, Full Gear, I am fully aware of their shortcomings. And as much as the Can Crushers have buried the WWE's uninspired programming of late, competition has shown us what WWE does better than AEW. Last week I called out Jim Cornette for ridiculing fans for liking what they like. While I have no intentions of going that route, I must question why some WWE fans place so much emphasis on the production value of a show. Do fewer explosions or a lack of red lights really take away from your enjoyment of another promotion? Does a shorter ramp leading to the ring or less obvious entrance music disqualify a company as low budget? When the Can Crushers cover live events, Mark meticulously discusses the lights, music, entrances, and vignettes. But there are times when those sorts of things are a distraction to purposely pull our attention from the other, more important areas that are lacking. WWE is utilizing top-notch technology and talented television people to dangle shiny objects in front of our faces in hopes that we don't notice how bad their shows actually are. Some fans claim there are still too many mistakes on an AEW show, and that's fair. That power slam by Cody on Jericho is unacceptable. Fortunately for AEW, they have two guys named Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone who can cover those errors. When discussing Bret Hart versus Steve Austin at WrestleMania 13, Jim Cornette said it was imperfect and messy, but he also said that's what made the match so good. It looked like a real fight. It was reminiscent to him of a Mid-South or JCP fight. He also said WWE has to have everything look perfect to the point where it resembles a taped show rather than a live event. Bret Hart has said pro wrestling is an art form, and he's right. It's a performance. Terry Funk has said he's never been an actor in his whole life. He was a wrestler. I respectfully disagree with Mr. Funk. Firstly, he was in a movie with Patrick Swayze, so Funk was absolutely an actor. And while he was a pro wrestler, he was also an actor during his matches. When Funk stood on the arena floor, game planning with Jimmy Hart and looking into the ring with a glare that made us believe he really wanted to kill Hulk Hogan or the Junkyard Dog, he was acting. If Funk told us that the JYD was really one of his closest friends and he'd never want to hurt him, then guess what? Funk was acting. If on the other chance Funk really hated Hogan and wanted to kill him, guess what? Funk was acting because he was channeling his true feelings. And as a performance art, I believe more of the performance I see from AEW than I do from WWE. AEW wrestlers give us more believable body language and facial expressions. There are moments in which I am not certain if a look from an AEW wrestler is concentration so as not to hurt his opponent or himself, or if it is part of a performance in which he is communicating that he wishes to extinguish his adversary. And as our good friend Al Snow always says, it's about making them guess what's real. In a time where we know just about all the wrestling secrets, AEW still keeps me guessing what's real. Plus, the promos aren't even close. AEW has the edge in that regard. WWE clearly has the advantage in certain departments. I spoke to a few friends who attended AEW Dynamite here in Pittsburgh and also Full Gear in Baltimore. I spoke to them to get their opinions because, as Bobby Heenan often said, I'm a broadcast journalist, McMahon. I want to bring fair, balanced opinions to Can Crushers listeners. One of my friends loves everything about AEW. He was a huge WCW fan and missed it terribly. To him, AEW is like WCW come By the way, he was sitting to Cody's immediate left when the American Nightmare took that header into the entryway ramp and busted up his face. My other friends were a little more measured in their praise. While they've enjoyed a new American wrestling product, they were quick to point out the chaos of the tag team matches in AEW. It's like a roller coaster, one of my friends said. Guys are coming and going whenever they want, he continued. And then the referee tries to stop Kenny Omega and get him out of the ring. Like, oh, now it's illegal. You let them do whatever they wanted, but now this one thing, when you need to be distracted, is illegal? He makes a fair point. He enjoys the tried and true formula of WWE Tag Team Wrestling, in which a team of bad guys works on one good guy, denying him any reprieve until that moment when the bad guys make a mistake and the good guy uses what little strength he has remaining, along with the encouragement of the fans, to tag his partner into the match. My friend didn't say it that eloquently. I'm embellishing a little bit. He also gives the edge in women's wrestling to WWE. I agree with him there as well. And that's the point of competition. Not only has it been fun to see something new, but that something new also pointed out what was great all along about the first brand. I believe AEW is listening to the fans. That is evidenced in their somewhat toned-down high spots and false finishes. And their tag team matches are tamer now. So much so that Marcus said, and I air quote, I liked the Young Bucks match. So here's the competition. Here's the AEW keeping their footing. Here's the NWA gaining a better footing. And here's the WWE's foot coming off the throat of the wrestling business at least a little bit. I was an English major at a liberal arts university. Punctuality has never been my strong suit. Mark and my wife will write things down for me, email me, text me, Facebook message me, dates, times, places, and events, and I'll still forget and ask them to remind me again. I'm flighty. Still, that's no excuse for how late I am in wishing a happy Veterans Day to our friend and fellow can crusher, Chad. I think too highly of Chad, and myself, of course, to pigeonhole us into stereotypes. But as I said, I was an English major at a liberal arts college, so perhaps that tells you which way I lean politically. Chad likes to shoot stuff, so perhaps that tells you which way he leans politically. We've had our share of political discussions, sometimes even with the wrestlers we go see every month. And while Chad is always brutally honest but fair, he is never above saying, I see your point. But regardless of your opinion or my opinion or Chad's opinion, it's because of people like Chad that we get to have an opinion. Thank you, Chad. Happy Veterans Day. How apropos that this segment ends with...
You're dismissed.
This is Jimmy Nuts, and you're listening to Can Crusher Podcast. Let's go nuts.
All right, final segment of the afternoon. I hope you liked the English professor stick, and I hope you guys actually enjoyed what
I know
Chad...
you didn't.
I hated it. I hope...
Take some NyQuil. We'll take over.
Right, I know. All right, well, we're doing our sponsors. Thanks to Collar and Elbow. Great shirts. You know, you guys saw me. You saw me yesterday with the Macho Man one that I got.
The new hoodie looks great after Mrs. Can Crusher threw away the old one.
Hats, hoodies, tees, all your wrestling apparel. There's new merch right now. Type in Can Crushers for 10% off when you go to your order. Capital C in Can, capital C in Crushers. Al will love you for it. And as transparent as we always are, I continue to say this. You do kick back some money towards the podcast. It helps pay for the podcast monthly or buy beer. That's it.
Gas money for me to go back to Pittsburgh?
And gas money maybe for Soup to go back to Pittsburgh. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at CanCrusher69. Continuing to send in the emails. I like this starting off the show with the emails. So it's it's CanCrusher69 at gmail.com. First time I'm reading this, if you haven't noticed.
Seem rather inexperienced at it.
I am. Head over to our website as we have everything there if you don't want to go to any of the other ones. CanCrusher69.wixsite.com/CanCrushers. You can email us from there. You can get to anything we have from there. You can see our upcoming events that we're going to attempt to go to, what we're helping publicize, so on and so forth. If you're just finding us right now on Facebook and you listen to Spotify, iTunes, Buzzsprout, Google Podcast, Stitcher, yada, 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 any of those other ones, iHeartRadio, we're on it.
WrestlePost app?
Yeah, if you get this cool thing, it's called the WrestlePost app on your phone. It's free for Google users or Android users and iPhone users. pull up WrestlePost app, because if you're on vacation...
If I'm in El County or if I'm in Pittsburgh, I can find wrestling either place.
Right. What if you're in Nevada on vacation and you'd like to go to a wrestling event?
Pull up your WrestlePost app. I think, what, are you throwing a shot out at Paul?
Maybe.
Nevada? Wasn't he in Vegas?
Just saying. You can find everything on this WrestlePost app. It tells you can actually link with people as well. And there's more podcasts out there to listen to than just Can Crushers. Continue and listen to us. Continue to share us. Continue to like, subscribe, give us all those hearts and stars and whatever the hell you guys, however you rank us. But as I stop there for a minute, yesterday, and I have not found out yet, but we'll rewind all the way back to Monday. We were nominated for a few awards on the Wrestle Hub page. They go out and find podcasts and they say, hey, these podcasts are notable, this, that, and the other. So we were up for Duo of the Year, we were up for Brand of the Year, and Newcomer of the Year. Last night, as of the recording, I have not found out. I have also not hunted because we've been busy this morning. They've named their top 5. And I don't know if they give an award after that, but I think that this Wrestle Hub is just going to name 5 of the best podcasts out there. But I didn't nominate us. So that's one within ourselves. That somebody else out there nominated Can Crushers to be at least in this list to get to the top 5. Thank you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. That's amazing for all the nation to say, these jackasses that drink beer, real garbage men that talk wrestling and throw shit together every once in a while, every week, and bring cool spotlights.
Those are great. Yeah.
That's cool.
Shout out to Johnny Patch. I went home and I brushed my hair 100 times after I heard you on the spotlight.
Thank you to you guys for making this a fun ride so far, and we continue, to grow. We really are. We're growing. Big things in the works for... We're in year 2 now, but year 3 is going to blow up because stuff's getting ordered. Let me just say that. Couple events that we're going to. November 29th to December 1st, Chad and I will be heading down to Winston-Salem, North Carolina, a little event called WrestleCade.
Yeah, just a few people get together, have a few matches, sign a few autographs, stuff like that.
Yeah, nobody big is going to be there, though.
No, I think now it's only 8,000 people and 150 guests, special guests, and 7 wrestling cards.
Some guys,
small stuff.
Some guys that have been named, some great Muda guy, an Iron Sheik. I don't know who. I don't know, but I hope
Dustin Rhodes,
Yeah.
Arn Anderson.
We're gonna see if we can meet up with these guys. Trust me, we'll be doing the podcast from there. Without a doubt, the podcast will be from there that weekend. December 7th. We are back in Elizabeth for the 2nd annual Pittsburgh Pro Wrestling Classic. We got tickets already. We're good to go. Soup will help cover that, I'm sure. And then one that we're going to promote out the ass again because it's a benefit, and you're going to hear next week from the beneficiary. Is that the right word?
I think so.
Might not be. I'll get corrected later.
English professor.
Beneficiary. Yes, that's the right word.
Screw you, John. It's mine.
I just collect taxes. I don't know.
Asylum and Code Red Wrestling present a Christmas for our own. And the benefits for the Yorns family that just had a new baby that's got some medical issues and everything. Cyril's going to be dropping by to touch on everything like that this week. So it'll be on next week's podcast. Next Sunday's podcast, we'll have a little bit of Cyril talking about what's going on, how this is going to help them. So it's big news. We always want to be part of it. I have some autographs that I'm going to throw into the mix of a raffle, help make them some money. Guys, if you want to help out the Yorns family, you can send money to me, contact me, and I'll give you addresses and stuff. Every little bit helps because their baby has just come home. It was in Pittsburgh for about a month, and now they're home, but they have some lingering bills, and both of them are still kind of looking for a job because they quit their jobs to make sure this baby is okay.
Yeah, if anybody can donate anything,
Anything.
You know, any kind of gift baskets, gift certificates, anything like that. You know,
Diapers, anything. Yeah.
This kind of stuff is going to, you know, you can't get much better of a reason to be doing this stuff.
So that about wraps up the show. We can touch on a few things. I mean, it's gonna be a long show. So if you're listening to it on the drive to work, hopefully you listen to the rest of it on the drive home. I'm saying it real late, but you'll hear it. Anything from you, Chad?
Just one thing noticed throughout, you know, some of the podcasts and different wrestling and stuff like that is, you know, one wrestler knocking another federation, other matches and that. I think that's crap. You know, you're not going to make that much of a difference by knocking a thing down, except that you're going to ruin it for wrestling and wrestling fans, true wrestling fans. Because a true wrestling fan will watch you whether you're on USA Network or
PBS.
Something like, or PBS, or even if you're not on and your show is thrown on YouTube or something like that. Wrestling fans are wrestling fans. They're not McMahon fans. They're wrestling fans.
I said the same thing a couple weeks ago about podcasts. I have a lot of friends that do wrestling podcasts. One's in Kentucky, and I'll give them a shout out. Ringside Podcast. The guy's a referee for OVW. Our shticks are not the same. I listen to his every week. Do I take anything from it? Maybe. Does he take anything from me? Maybe. I don't know. But we'll reach out to each other and say, hey, I just had an interview with wrestler X, and I can lead them your way too, because we have completely different fans.
Mm-hmm.
We really do. I have some in Kentucky. He's got some in Pennsylvania. I have some, you know, everywhere. Wrestling fans we love doing this. Sitting around the table, talking wrestling, drinking beer, drinking iced tea, whatever you're going to drink, and just talk wrestling. That is our passion.
I'm 47 years old, and this, since I got, you know, back with Mark and doing this stuff and things, makes me feel like, you know, I'm back in my early teens
now.
And it just reminds me, I'm totally ignoring him somewhat, but it takes you back when we didn't have as much, you know, when we didn't have as much crap going on, when things weren't as bad, when things were a lot
There's
simpler.
still a lot of crap going on. I just make room for podcasting.
Yeah. It's just it's a fun time. It takes you back to the 80s and stuff like that, when the wrestling, you know, kayfabe and people, it meant so much. I mean, hell, if you're going to try to pull a hit out on Vince McMahon, that kind of tells you a hell of a lot.
Every federation's trying to pit each other against a war. All I can say is, if you're a wrestling fan, support it all. The more wrestling there is, the more stuff we can watch, the more stuff we can enjoy. Just enjoy it.
And remember, just because you're trash doesn't mean you can't do great things. It's called a garbage can, not a garbage cannot. Listen Wednesday when we're on location at Straub's Brewery getting messed up.